kids in training. How much training should kids be doing? Should kids be thinking about training? And how do we help our kids become healthy humans? The first thing that I want us to think about is, how old is your kid? When we're considering exercise for 2-year-olds, it's a completely different story to exercising with, say, 5 or 6-year-olds, and it's going to be completely different to exercising with 10 or 15-year-olds. Let's take toddlers, for example. My daughter's a year and a half. We're enjoying experimenting with lots of different movements. It started with her learning how to sit, then it went to her learning how to walk. Then before you know it, she's stopped walking and now runs over our house. She's running down the hallway, climbing stairs, jumping off stairs. I would argue that even from a young age, that is incidental activity that's very important for development. Every chance I get, I'll take her to a park and I'll enjoy watching her learning how to climb up the stairs, doing the cargo net. She's built up confidence to enjoy herself on the swing, go down a slide, etc. At the toddler age, believe it or not, that is some form of exercise. It's developing their coordination, it's developing their bones, their muscles, their tendons, and at a very young age, my daughter's being exposed to good movement. If she's walking with me, she'll enjoy walking and then she'll let me know when she's had enough and wants me to carry her, or it's time to go back into the stroller. If you fast forward to the age of, say, 2 or 3, at this age, I know for a fact that there's some sports that kids can start to experiment with. I've spoken with a couple of friends of mine. One guy's running a tennis academy, and he says, Svet, from the age of 2, I'm enjoying coaching kids with learning how to hold a racket. And what this gentleman does is he'll use balloons, and he'll get kids to learn how to swing and hit a balloon with a racket. My jiu-jitsu gym also accepts kids from as young as 2 in the youngest class, which isn't as much about learning skills of jiu-jitsu as it is learning to be a good teammate, learning how to play games. They'll do color coordination things, they'll jump, they'll dive, they'll wrestle with each other and have fun. Fast forward to, say, the age of 4, 5, 6, there's lots of things like gymnastics and soccer, solo sports and team sports that the kids can start to experience. Completely different to when we're talking about exercise for, say, 10-year-olds or 15-year-olds, where now we can start to get a bit more structured and we can start to look at more set routines, and we can look at, cardio exercise versus strength exercise, etc. So I think we're going to have a look at how old are the kids that we're looking after, and do we want them exploring playful movement, incidental movement, or do we want them to try some body weight strength exercises? Just on the weekend, my daughter was doing some lying down leg raises with her grandpa, and they had a great time rolling around on the grass and playing around with movement. Your kid that's just turned 10, again, you can continue to build things like body weight push-ups, body weight squats, even things like lunges and sit-ups. As your kid progresses to, say, 12, high school age, 14, 15, 16, I'm a firm believer that exploring gyms is a good idea. Finding a suitable gym. A lot of high schools will have gyms on their premises. And even though your kid may not love HPE or be a sporty kid, having a healthy relationship with some gym movement will help them offset, years of sitting that's coming. Because when we're at if we're studying at uni or if we're working in a professional job, the harsh reality is a lot of people are sitting at a desk in front of a computer. So if we don't have a healthy relationship with some movement, I think a lot of kids will be suffering and will unfortunately have a lot of consequences from a sedentary lifestyle. So as parents, I think it's on us to introduce them to movements and develop some of these healthy relationships. So when it comes to exercising, more structured exercise with kids, we can look at the FIT principle and we can look at frequency. How often should our kids be exercising? Well, if it's incidental day-to-day stuff, obviously they're going to accumulate that throughout the week. Let's say we're looking at the first body weight strength training program. I like the idea of starting with 1 day per week, building to 2, and then probably capping it at around 3. Does the kid need to be doing fancy dumbbell or barbell or gym machine exercises? Absolutely not. You don't have to start there. That can be something that you can build in as the kid grows up. But certainly, exploring body weight strength exercises, if I just rattle off several, things like body weight squats, great exercise to introduce into your kids' training program 2 or 3 times per week. Things like push-ups, great upper body exercise to introduce. Things like lunges, things like sit-ups, little jumps or hops or burpees can also be playful and great for bone, muscle, and tendon development. Does it have to be set? Does it have to be structured? Early days, I don't think it needs to be. I think you can explore and do random sets of reps, random sets, random days. As the kid grows up, absolutely, you can have your leg strength day that you explore with your kid, and then your upper body day that you explore a bit of whole body that you do. And you can pick days and times that where maybe there isn't many school commitments on, there's no other sport or any other exercise, and then that just becomes the kids' conditioning day. I'm passionate about jiu-jitsu, and in my jiu-jitsu academy, there is a lot of kids that are in, say, around 13, 14, 15, that are impressive athletes and doing amazing things in the sport of jiu-jitsu. And I think a lot of that's coming from the fact that they were introduced to that sport from a young age. They started rolling when they were 5 or 6, and maybe they came in with their mum and dad and they learnt the sport. Fast forward the age of 15 or 16, that's 10 years that they've experienced in that sport, and they are absolute machines when it comes to other kids their age, or even other adults that they roll with that haven't been doing it as long. Does that mean that you need to specialize your kid and just have one sport for them to do from a young age? Absolutely not. I think a lot of kids that over-specialize too soon pay the price later on when they fall out of that sport for whatever reason, and then they haven't tried anything else and they've got nothing else that they can fall back on. I think they're at risk of then staying sedentary and then becoming a non-mover. Intensity of sport, if you're thinking about how hard should I be pushing my kid, again, depends at what age, but I'm always a firm believer of not going too hard too soon, and not looking to go too intense, too heavy. You don't have to do too many reps, too many sets from the beginning, but like any other good program, you want to start off easy, gradually build up, and then know when it's time for your kid to have a rest or pull back as well. Depending on the age of your kid, you might want to engage and see if there's a set structured program, or maybe talk to a coach to get a tailored program for body weight strength. And if your kid is starting strength training and using equipment, I would encourage them to follow the same principles. Don't go too heavy too soon, and don't be scared to start off easy and then gradually build up from there. If we look at time, how much time should my kids spend exercising and doing an exercise protocol? There's no right or wrong answer. You could start with 5 minutes of strength training exercise for your kid, and I'm confident it will bring them health benefits. from 5 minutes, you can build it up to 10 or 15, gradually build it up to 20 to 60 minutes if you want. There's no golden rule, but it just depends on what level your kid's starting at and I guess what you're looking to achieve. Common mistakes that I'm seeing and problems that parents are facing. I think there's too many parents that aren't exploring movements with their kids. They're not encouraging them to try new things. They're not really setting a good example by living a healthy lifestyle themselves. So then the kid from a young age ends up being more sedentary than what's healthy. And this sedentary behavior, maybe it's iPad exposure from a young age, maybe it's too much screen time in the beginning. I'm not saying screen time and iPads are the devil by any means. There's a healthy way that you can balance it, but they're not. The mistake that I'm seeing is some parents aren't offsetting the sitting by incorporating activity and incorporating exercise. So the kids are then being too sedentary, living an inactive lifestyle, and then sadly, for the first time ever, we're seeing kids as young as 6 being diagnosed with type 2 diabetes, being diagnosed with high cholesterol or blood pressure. That was unheard of 10 or 20 years ago. And I believe that inactivity and a sedentary lifestyle is a major contributing factor. But Svet, what do I do if my kid just doesn't like exercise? My kid is not an active exercise kid. My kid's more academic. He or she is more into the books. More into the books and not into sport. They can't stand getting hot and sweaty. I think the best thing for you to do is don't give up and try some new things. Play around with introducing your kid to different movement. It could be something as simple as going for a walk and then pairing, maybe their favorite breakfast with that walk. Or maybe it's going for a bike ride, but on the bike ride you stop for a nice juice or something that the kid enjoys. So you look at bundling different habits and pairing a nice reward with trying a new movement. Don't give up on them. I've just used walking and cycling as an example, but you might like to explore dance or gymnastics, or you might like to look at research whether there's a martial arts gym near you or a soccer gym near you. And you'd be surprised. Oftentimes these different sports and different gyms, they will have kids programs, and they'll have a good system in place for introducing kids that have never done this sport, never done this activity. They'll have a good beginner program in place, and most places understand that the kids aren't going to come in being high-level athletes, so they are beginner friendly. When it comes to movement for your kids, there's lots for you to explore. There's play that's not structured and can be random. There's more structured things like classes and taking your kids to, say, gymnastics or martial arts. There's things that are structured, and you don't have to be an exercise physiologist at home to play around with setting up a bit of a structured body weight strength training program for your kids. Just some basic body weight movements that mimic everyday life, or body weight strength training exercises that you've done before. Play around with introducing your kids to these movements, and you can, if you wanted to be really disciplined with it, you can set right, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, before dinner or after dinner, we're going to do 3 different body weight exercises, and we're going to start with, say, 5 reps, and as the weeks go on, we can build those reps. Something as simple as that will help you set a good routine and some healthy habits for your kids. As your kids get older, don't fear the gym, don't fear the weights. The horror stories that we hear about kids stunting their growth or doing damage to their bones, that is usually in high-level sports. So if you think of gymnastics, it's not going to be in your entry-level gymnastics class. Things like this may happen in athletes that are pushing themselves to extreme measures, maybe young athletes that are preparing for the Olympic Games and they're doing I'm talking several hours worth of training every week, and they're not giving their bodies enough time to heal, enough time to rest and recover. And maybe they're not giving their bodies enough fuel as well. This is rare. Most kids aren't at risk of doing damage and stunting their growth. In actual fact, most kids are at risk of being inactive and being too sedentary and not having a healthy relationship with movement. Don't be scared of getting your kids into the gym, but at the same time, make sure that they're doing it safely. You can help them make sure that they're not going too heavy too soon, and you can always seek some professional guidance if you're unsure. In summary, there's no right or wrong way of doing things when it comes to your kids and their relationship with exercise. When they're young, explore, play. As they age, introduce some body weight exercises, introduce them to strength. As they grow up some more, then it's time for structured routines. Then you can start to look at strength training 3 days per week, cardio most days per week. And then they can, usually by that age, they can tell you what sports they like, what sports they hate. But as a general rule, please do think about, I think it all starts with us as parents thinking about how active are our kids? Are they active enough? And if they're not active enough, what can I do to introduce them to some movement, to encourage them to move, and to give them the opportunity to try different things? Don't let money or other limitations stop you. You can get creative and explore movements and activities by yourself with no equipment. But if you do have access to equipment, if you do have access to gyms or school programs or other sporting places like the martial arts gyms, the gymnastics gyms, the tennis academy, the soccer academy. If you have access to this, please do try and get your kids there and see if they enjoy it. If you've made it this far in the video, I appreciate you being one of my loyal followers. YouTube will recommend a video for you to watch here. And don't forget to hit subscribe, throw a like, comment on here. I'm also very active on Instagram. Check it out.